And then at the end of the episode, there's like this giant musical number.
That's Jumping the Shark, man.
So these guys did it.
Today on the show.
Good morning, Scallywags. How are we today? Oh, yeah, Baby Shark. Yeah.
Jumping the Shark.
Didn't know what you were going for there. I was a little confused there for a second. But yes, today we are talking about 8 of our favorite Jump the Shark moments. And of course, in case you live underground or something and don't know what that is, the season 5 premiere of Happy Days, way back on September 20th of 1977, an episode that was entitled Hollywood Part 3. Fonzie literally jumped a shark. And it was not good. You had here's guys skiing on bad green screen, in front of basically rotoscope. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then cut to a shark in a tank somewhere. Cut back to a guy jumping. Cut back to shark somewhere. Hey, he did it. It was terrible. But it was all a ratings gimmick, and since then, any kind of cheap move made by a show or that is intended for the increasing of ratings has been referred to as jumping the shark.
Now, that's something you know.
Yeah.
So, in that tradition, there have been many TV shows. Like you said, these are our 8 favorites. Like Dallas. Oh, classic one. I mean, my mother particularly loved to watch Dallas. I remember it was in I believe it was on a Tuesday night when I was growing up.
Being a kid when this particular thing happened, I mean, that summer, you could not turn your head without, I mean, you know how your childhood memories are a lot more grand than they really are, and you find out years later it was just some small little thing. Well, I remember this thing going on for years, and it was literally the season break. It was like a month and a half or so. I don't know, maybe longer than that. But
this show actually premiered in 1978. I was 2 years old.
I was born that year.
It was an instant phenomenon, initially focusing on the marriage of Bobby. The show quickly began to shift its attention to JR. He conducted dirty business. If you didn't know, in Dallas, JR was Dallas's boss hog.
Yeah.
I like that analogy. I really do.
It works.
Quote. Over the years, behind the scenes, creative changes resulted in Patrick Duffy's character, who played Bobby, was being killed off in the season 8 finale. Season 9 saw a noticeable change in the general tone of the show, and the fans reacted vocally by showing their dissatisfaction with the direction the show was taking. Thus, by season 10, things had escalated to a degree that producers decided to retcon the entire season before the retconning was a thing.
Yeah.
How did they do that? It was a dream by the character named Pam. That Bobby was in the shower, and the events of the 9th season were completely erased, and the show hit reset, but the damage was done. A few attempts at rebooting notwithstanding, the show died in 1981. The infamous shower scene remains one of its lasting legacies.
Family Guy even did that really early on.
Really
it was
early on.
The Apocalypse episode or something like that, where it ended with those same actors now reenacting the scene.
Yeah, so I mean that was one of the first examples. I mean, there's a lot of early examples.
Yeah, but the "it's all a dream" scenario is a classic. But
that would be everything in the Avengers taking place in Captain America's frozen dream world.
Yeah, or Rick still being in a coma in The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But there's other ways that shows can do this as well.
Mm-hmm. It's not just with murders.
Yeah, take, for example, Will and Grace.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's back on the air for a couple seasons. But before they went off the air, the last season or two, kind of just toward the end, they started kind of running out of steam. So, in a way to kind of revamp things, instead of revamping them, they just started bringing in guest stars. Tons and tons and tons. I mean, they had everything from Jack Black to Matt Damon, Tim Curry, Andy Garcia, Madonna, Jennifer Lopez, Britney Spears, Sharon Stone, Demi Moore, Seth Green. That's just a few of them, guys.
Yeah, it's like every episode had a big name star drop by and go, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" The only thing was missing was connecting them with Seinfeld.
Right, yeah. But it was all just in a hopes to... this person's fans will watch this episode and maybe they'll get hooked on the show and they'll keep watching it. But it's just a big ratings gimmick. and it
It
didn't work.
Didn't really work.
It didn't work. The show went out like I said, very shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
But it's back now.
It's a great show. Don't get me wrong. I like Will and Grace. I really do. It's funny.
Show, but
it's a good
they
show.
jumped the shark.
But they did. They jumped the shark. All Along the Watchtower is another jump the shark.
Battlestar
moment.
Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica. Wish Chapo was here. He unfortunately had things to go do because he's a big fan of the Battlestar Galactica.
When we were researching these and I mentioned Battlestar Galactica, he immediately was like, "What episode? What when?" I said,
did.
"All Along the Watchtower." He goes,
Yeah. The premise of All Along the Watchtower, for those who don't know, is it's focused around the Cylons.
"No, the
Now,
whole show was focused around
the
Cylons."
whole show is focused around Cylons, but what are they and what do they happen? Well, strangely, it draws down to a satire cover of a Bob Dylan song. Were they willing to roll with us of a lot of Battlestar's punches because they usually propelled us somewhere weird, dark, and awesome? Ronald D. Moore's show lost us in the third season when it came to find out that the Cylons were actually humans. They live among us. They look like us. They're strangely down. Yeah, along the Watchtower at the same time, the recently deceased Kara Starbuck thrice returned from the dead as an angel. Really grumpy angel. Yeah. I remember this. The show's final season continued to traffic this type of half-baked, quasi-spiritual contrived, culminating in a baffling, uncomfortably peachy final episode. Preachy, not peachy. Sorry, I missed an R. But it was said the Watchtower was the moment that had everyone going, what the heck?
Yeah. The show kind of spiraled out of control after that.
Yeah, it didn't take very long, and most people lost interest in it.
Yeah. What a lot of shows will do whenever they're I'm not going to call it a jump the shark, but a gimmick that a lot of shows will go with is the musical episode. Okay, I mean everything from Scrubs, The Flash, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. A lot of shows have done musical episodes. Now, a lot of these shows handle them in a very tasteful way. Like, say, Buffy, for example.
Buffy had a really good. It was a good musical.
It was a campy show to begin with, so it fit that style. Scrubs, it's a comedy, and they did it in a way that was actually made sense. There was a woman that had a nasty brain tumor. She heard everything as music. That's something that can legitimately happen. The Flash, there was a demon that that had been previously, granted he was made up in a Batman cartoon that was one of the more recent ones, Brave and Bold, but nonetheless, Music Meister. So it all made sense there. But one show where it didn't make sense to have a musical episode, Grey's Anatomy.
It's kind of a weird one to put a musical into.
Yeah, it's not a comedy. It's not a fantasy show.
It's pretty hard drama.
It's pretty hard drama. And what's even weirder is that they actually fit it into the storyline like right after like this horrible car crash involving main characters. So it was like this horrible event, people get really badly hurt, whatever, and then hey, fun musical episode.
That's not even what? Wow. Okay.
Show's still on the air. It's kind of running on fumes and whatever. But I don't think that they. I don't think it didn't help.
It didn't help. It didn't help at all.
It didn't help.
Yeah, you mentioned the Buffy musical, which I thought was one of the better episodes in the series. I really liked the musical Meister episode of The Flash and Supergirl. Of course, I always like any of the CW superhero shows that get to a decent crossover.
Well, see, that's what's great about the Arrowverse shows is they don't they're good story. They're good storytelling, but they don't take themselves too seriously. So it's not a tangent actually. I'm saying they don't take themselves too seriously. So a thing like a musical episode works in that universe.
No, I agree.
Under the right circumstances.
Yeah, not every episode doesn't need to be a musical episode. No, God, means. But yeah, no.
A musical superhero show.
Hey,
there's an idea. I need to make a phone call.
Speaking of bad things that happen in doctoral settings, kind of like what happened with Grey's Anatomy, ER was a very popular TV show back in the...
Very popular for jumping the sharks.
Very, very popular. What about the helicopter from hell episode?
Episodes?
Episodes, yeah. There was multiple. A lot of gimmicks throughout the show's run, but the early seasons you could chalk up to writers taking advantage of the fantastic cast and fresh ideas. However, the later seasons became clear that writers weren't sure what to write about anymore. I really think this is a common occurrence in Hollywood. You get after about 4 or 5 or 6 seasons, and it's just like
After a while, it just
we've
became
done it.
like the big episode of the season, like what catastrophe happens at the hospital, like a gunman into the hospital, a bomb in the hospital, a helicopter crash in the hospital, there's a, I don't know, flesh-eating virus in the hospital.
You see where we're going.
That's
with
what
it.
the show became after a while.
Season 9 premiere, a surgeon lost his arm to a helicopter blade. The event was subsequently recovered. Storyline actually was quite handled very well. They sewed the arm back on. He did his physical rehab. But the bad thing was they had to end up taking the arm back off.
Yeah. He never got.
He never really got.
And then the same guy, like, wasn't it later that same?
It was
season?
like that same season.
Actually, there's another helicopter accident, like a midair explosion,
and then he gets caught in the debris and dies.
Yeah. So
bad
twice with
bad
the same dude in the same kind of situation.
I'm wondering if his contract wasn't up initially, so they were trying to find a way to write him out, and then they briefly renegotiated a contract.
Something.
And then all of a sudden, I don't want to do it anymore. Oh, we got to find a way to write him out.
I mean, if you're going to go into a show, that would be a great like contract clause to have. Is like, if I'm ever written out of this show, it has to be like a season-long epic thing.
It's got to be a spectacular.
Now there is an ongoing thing here, and I've actually kind of tied two things into one here, and we call it the Oliver syndrome. And this is something that a ton of shows that have done in the past, and that is where one of two things is happening here. One, either your cast is getting old and stale, so they introduce a new character that is like random family member, cousin Oliver from the Brady Bunch. Is where that one comes from. They add a character. So let's say like the Cosby Show added Olivia, the little girl.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Just one season you had her, the next season or vice versa.
Well, it was all the kids were growing up. They were moving out. And then like the oldest daughter, was Denise, had a daughter, and that was her. So she introduced us to the show, why she's living with them, whatever. But, this also happened with, just totally drew a blank. Adding the kid. Growing Pains. Leonardo DiCaprio was added to the later seasons of Growing Pains, as I think he was their cousin or
something. He's like,
Or for that matter, he could have been like where he was like some orphan kid. I don't remember. But the other side of this that I'm tying into it is where not necessarily someone new is introduced, but a major cast member, specifically your main cast member, leaves the show for whatever reason, and they replace that actor with a random person, usually a brother or sister we didn't know about, and they take over their place. See Charlie Sheen's 2.5 Men.
Yes.
That 70s show. ER. God, I could go on and on and on for that. Charlie's Angels, Three's Company. I mean, that list could go on.
Laverne and Shirley.
We could do an entire episode based on that.
Yeah.
So, bad move, guys. Just if your star leaves, I get it. You've got a cash cow, but you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Show me one time where you replace the character and the show succeeds afterwards. What, Charmed? Maybe Charmed did okay for a little bit. Seasons.
Let's face it, you weren't watching Charmed because they were witches and they were solving world problems. You were watching it because they were cute girls. Period.
And let's face it, Rose McGowan or Sharon Doherty.
Yeah.
One with Rose. Yeah.
So we're gonna wrap it up with Prison Break.
I'm not wrapping it up.
Oh no, you still got yours. Finish yours.
No, I've got one more after that.
So. Oh, that's right. Oh yeah, you do. Prison Break. Sorry, I can't count today. Prison Break. Basically, everything from from the last 4.
Everything after season 1.
Everything after season 1. Because what happened?
Well, we broke out of prison.
Now what do we do,
guys? We call the show Prison Break. What are we going to do from here? Let's break out of another prison,
or let's break into a prison so we can break out of it later on.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if somewhere in the annals of fan theory, spoiler, if those two characters aren't really Captain Cold and Heatwave from later on in the Flash.
I think that's kind of where they got that from.
Yeah.
It's just that show was such a big. See, you know what's weird? Prison Break was such a huge ordeal when it was new. I've never seen a single scene of that show.
I watched season 1. I liked it. But again, season 2 was like Okay.
There's been nothing more than commercials that I've ever watched in that show. I mean, I'm familiar with what happened. See, that's a tangent, but that's one thing about me when it comes to pop culture. I love pop culture stuff so much that I can, like, say, books, for example, perfect example. I can never have read a book, but I can tell you every detail about that book. I know things. I learn things. I research things, but without actually viewing them myself. So, like, I know a ton of stuff would happen on that show, like the whole DB Cooper plot thing, the kind of turncoat FBI dude, all that fun stuff. But I've never seen a single scene of that show outside of, like, a commercial.
Why don't you take us home?
We are home.
Anywhere.
Oh, you mean home. Yeah. My personal favorite, but before we get to this last one, I actually want to interject one that I meant to put in here and I forgot to, and that is the 9th season of Scrubs. They ended the show. The show was over.
The show was done in 8 seasons.
One of the most beautiful final episodes of a show. And then 1 season later, they come back with, well, now the hospital is a medical school, and all the doctors became teachers, and this somehow makes sense, and we've got a new main character that's an annoying chick from Australia.
That show, that season 9 was
what?
driven. Season 9 was driven by the fans writing and ending.
I loved Scrubs. I absolutely loved
it should have ended in the end of season 8. It was a perfect
adore Scrubs, but the final episode of Scrubs of season 8, and I consider that the final episode, was one of the most beautifully done final episodes of a show ever.
No, so, I 100% agree.
Absolutely. But no, the final choice. Now, a lot of the articles and things that we went to for this information actually included the actual jumping of the shark as their number 1 pick. I'm like, you can't say, like, these are shows that jump the shark and then include jumping the shark, because that's where the term I don't know. But anyway. Yeah. But no, we're giving it to Roseanne, season 9. Yes. All of a sudden, it went from Dan having a heart attack at Darlene's funeral at the end of the previous season, and, like, this just grim, no pun intended, but, like, heart-stopping a cliffhanger of an episode, and then all of a sudden next season comes along and Dan's fine, and oh hey look, we won the lottery and we're rich now, and now we're gonna do these episodic weird, Jackie's gonna date a prince, and, like, Roseanne becomes I don't know, it was weird. It was just weird from a show that was totally. And this is why, whenever it came down to the final moments of the final episode of Roseanne, a lot of people have given a lot of grief, saying that was one of the worst endings to a show. And I disagree. I think it was one of the best final episodes ever. And the reason I say that is because of how depressing it was. I mean, it was horribly depressing. Dan died, all this stuff. Roseanne was now just this lonely person who, she was following her dream, which that's good, but kind of inspiring. But no, I thought it was beautifully done. And why I thought that was such a good episode was that Roseanne always had this thing about the real life, like, blue collar family, and bad things happen in life. So to be all of a sudden like, oh, we're now millionaires and doing all this weird stuff, it made no sense. Now you did find out in the final episode that it was all just her trying to reconcile with Dan's death and everything, but yeah, totally just, they went way off the deep end trying to bring in the ratings, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, a lot of the jump the shark moments, it's the last gasp. It's the, what can we do to save a sinking ship? And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't.
More often than not, it doesn't.
More often they don't. Yeah, more often they're good ideas that don't make the cut.
Well, most of the time they're bad ideas, or they're cookie cutter ideas, which is even worse. Like, like the cast replacement and stuff. That 70s show, 2.5 Men, all those ones we mentioned before. I mean, name one. Like I said before, name one where they, well, I mean, it's happened. But yeah, you you mentioned the Duke boys earlier. You mentioned Buzz Hogg. They did that. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, they did.
There was
that.
like what, 2 seasons?
Two seasons, and it was the cousins.
The cousins. Where
And
there were
then-
contract disputes between the guys that played the Duke boys.
Yeah.
And so John Schneider and I can never remember the other guy's
Never
name.
remember the other guy's name, but I know who you're talking about.
But yeah, Bo and Luke.
Bo and Luke. They
So-
decided they were conveniently off.
Yeah,
They kept referring to them in the show.
I think they were like on the run or something
Yeah,
like that,
doing
hiding out
something.
from the law. And so the cousins came in for some reason.
Yeah.
And it was like Chaz and
Chaz and something.
know.
Yeah. And
But yeah,
but
there's
it was like they were exactly like Bo and Luke.
Yeah.
Even though they were different people, they were a cookie cutter of Bo and Luke Duke.
Absolutely. And then Bo and Luke come back and they never mention the
Never
cousins
mentioned the
ever
cousins
again.
It's like just erase them out of history.
So what's your favorite jump the shark moment? Something we didn't mention. Put it down
put
below.
it down.
Make sure you check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Hey, you got that right. I didn't get it right yesterday.
I know, right? It kind of confused me when editing.
Just been doing that for 7 months now.
Yeah, it's just nothing out of the ordinary.
You're here on YouTube, so
It's actually not the first time it happened, believe me.
I know.
It's the second time.
Maybe there's a jump the shark moment for us.
Maybe.
You're here on YouTube, so continue to do the YouTube things like liking, sharing, subscribing, commenting, giving the thumbs up. And while you're here, head on over to the Facebook page. Why? Why do you ask? The show shirts.
That's right. We have them in short sleeve, long sleeve, and coming soon, hoodies. So yes, the t-shirts are $20, $22 for the long sleeve. Don't have the pricing yet for the hoodies.
Hoodies are still a prototype.
Still working on that. But yes, send us a message there on the Facebook and let us know what size, what colors you want. They're available in pretty much whatever color you'd like. I'm sure some smart aleck out there is going to be like, I want it in paisley or whatever, something stupid. But yeah, you know.
Anyway, you know what we mean. Yeah. So, hey, you know what tomorrow is, right?
Well, it's our favorite day of the week, obviously.
And I have my voice back.
We'll see you then.
This is Moose from Springfield, and this is your Russian clip of the day.
Hey guys, thanks for watching that video. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and if you liked what you see, go ahead and click on our faces to go ahead and subscribe to get all of our Monday through Friday stuff.
Indeed, and here's a couple of links down below that you can follow to watch more shows like it. Tons of great content right here at Scallywag Productions. We'll see you tomorrow.